everybody, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Amanda N, and today we're going to talk about folklore from Texas. I asked my editor which state he wanted to see next, so here we are. This is a bit of a weird one, if I'm being honest with you guys. From the moment I started researching, it's just plain creepy. That's because Texas's urban legend is known as the Candy Lady. And yes, it's as strange as it sounds. The Candy Lady apparently lures children to their doom by leaving candy on their windowsill before bed. Once they get the candy, she'll grab them and feast on their blood. Only in your state reads, children began to go missing, yet no leads were ever found that would suggest they were kidnapped or ran away. As some of the remaining children got older, they confessed to eating candy left on their windowsills, with a note from the Candy Lady. So parents started to wonder if the other children perhaps had been poisoned. That worry was soon put to rest when someone actually turned up dead. No, not a child, but a sheriff's deputy who had been out investigating the disappearances. His eyes had been stabbed out with a fork and his pockets stuffed with candy. A farmer also found a child-sized set of teeth inside a candy wrapper one morning while tending to his fields. So yeah, reading that happened to an investigator, it's no wonder people rather not dig into this story. But how true is this really? Houston Ghost Tour has their own answer about who the Candy Lady really is. They say that the Candy Lady was a real woman known as Clara Crane, who was born in Texas in 1871. Her daughter Marcella was killed in a farming accident, and Clara became despondent. It seems like her husband may have been responsible for the accident. He was drunk at the time, so she killed him with poisoned candy. She was tried, convicted, but placed in the North Texas Lunatic Asylum as she pled insanity. Apparently, in the asylum, Clara would sing and talk to a doll made of old bedsheets, and a letter she wrote was found that told her sister her and Marcy were fine and she couldn't wait to go home. Clara was actually released only 4 years after being in the asylum because of overcrowding, and it's around this same time that the children started to go missing from Texas. First of all, why was Clara released? Honestly, I don't blame her for being furious with her husband if he was responsible for their daughter's death. I don't know what I'd do in that situation personally. But she really did sound like she had genuine mental health issues, especially if she was chatting and singing to a doll and believed her daughter was still alive. The sources that state that children went missing don't actually give any names either, so it's really tricky to verify this or what happened to the detective. One horror gaming website actually has the lore and gives a year, which is more than plenty of other sources can say. It states that 2 children went missing in 1903, about 5 years after Clara was released. I tried to find out who the 2 missing kids were from 1903, as they were allegedly from Terrell, Texas, Clara's hometown, but there's no real information on them. Even if it was over 100 years ago, I thought that there might be some kind of old case file, especially with this detective being murdered so brutally, but yet another source goes into just a little more detail and tells another horrific occurrence near the town. It reads, in 1903, the first child disappeared. He went to bed, and when his family woke up the next morning, he was gone without a trace. Soon after, several other children disappeared. Finally, one little boy told his mama the truth, and all of the adults just knew it was Clara. She was famous for murder and candy after all. They searched the Crane farm top to bottom, but no one had lived there for years. One terrible morning, Jeb Smith was working his fields when he noticed something glinting in the sunlight near the fence. Puzzled, he walked over to investigate and saw that there were no fewer than 10 candy wrappers strewn along the ground. He bent to pick one of the bundles up and nervously untwisted the brightly colored wax paper. Inside, he found 2 small bloody teeth. Frantically, he opened another wax parcel, and then another. Each one held teeth. Some were jagged or cracked as though they had been torn violently from an unwilling mouth. Jeb was appropriately baffled and then ran to get the sheriff. The town sheriff had been working himself to the bone to find the missing kids. He swore to the town he would find the monster responsible. I suppose he kept his promise, he just didn't survive the encounter. There has to be some sort of record of this, or at least that's what I thought. Jeb Smith is the first official name that I had, but even as searching his name doesn't give me much because what do you expect with a last name like Smith? It seems that people are simply speculating and turning a poisoned caramel custom into a nightmare story. It's cool, honestly, to see stories evolve and change over time from one nugget of truth. As Insider says, the exact town or identity of this candy lady is unknown, so again, it may not even be Clara to begin with. But as I said, it certainly does seem like the way she killed her husband sparked all of this, whether for good or for bad. Even if Clara truly did hurt someone, there's no evidence as to who that may be. On a side note, and to go just a little bit off track here, there actually has been a homicide out there called the Candy Lady Killing, where a woman such as candy heiress Helen Brock was murdered. But this case occurred decades after this folklore was established, so there's no clues there either. It doesn't seem to relate in any way. Helen is now the new Candy Lady on the internet, and her murder has been as mysterious as the Candy Lady folklore itself. One Reddit user has actually summed up the whole thing rather nicely. He states that Helen Brock was a multimillionaire widow who gained her wealth from marrying into E.J. Brock & Sons Candy Company. After a routine medical checkup at the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota, Brock left for the return journey by air to her north suburban Chicago mansion on February 17, 1977. A gift shop assistant near the clinic insisted that Brock had said, "I'm in a hurry, my houseman is waiting." This is the last sighting of Brock by an independent witness. The crew on the commercial airliner on which she was supposed to return did not report seeing her on the flight. Her houseman/chauffeur, Jack Matlick, said that he collected her at O'Hare Airport, further asserting that Brock spent 4 days without making a call before she was dropped off at O'Hare for a flight to Florida. Matlick was the focus of police attention during the investigation. Matlick always claimed to be innocent and angrily denied to reporters that he knew what happened to Brock. But a former federal agent who worked on the case said that after Matlick's death that he was indeed responsible. Brock's brother was of the opinion that Matlick had been responsible for the murder of his sister without any involvement from Bailey or horse racing racketeers. An investigation into the case uncovered serious criminal activity associated with Chicago stable owners, including Silas Jane and Richard Bailey, also known as the horse murderers. Don't worry, I'm not using Reddit as a source here. I double-checked this information elsewhere, but this is just a brief summary. Anyway, Bailey was charged with, but not convicted of, conspiring to murder Brock, but he died in February 2011, so we may never know what actually happened to this missing candy lady and candy heiress. Her death did lead to a detective uncovering information about an unsolved triple murder in Chicago in 1955, so I suppose one can argue that she didn't die in vain, but I feel for her family that still don't have any answers as to what actually happened to Helen Brock, or if Bailey or Matlick was responsible. All in all, while the modern Candy Lady is a missing woman that vanished under mysterious circumstances, the folklore Candy Lady may or may not have existed at all. It does seem like Clara was a real person, but I can't verify what happened to the sheriff at the time, and you'd think with such a grisly death there would be more information on it. We really may never know. But with all that said, that's where I'm going to end today's video. If you liked it, please hit that like button. If you're new here, hit subscribe. And let me know what state you'd like to see next down in the comments. Bye guys, have a good one.